transformation. Welcome again to another beautiful session with the Future Den organization. It's been a while. How are you, my Ugandan people? I hope elections went well and you're now fully back. Welcome to the new Uganda. We are enjoying the benefits and we are grateful for another great opportunity to be here for our master session on digital organizations. Before we start, I know the topic can be very interesting and very comprehensive. When you talk about digital organizations, you start asking yourself, what really is digital organizations? But let me tell you something. I think until now, up to now, every organization existing in this universe is a digital organization unless you have deliberately refused to embrace technology in your particular organization. But as of now, every existing organization is a digital organization. So, to simplify the whole concept, is just to we're talking about how organizations have adopted technology in their different spaces. So, probably you're using ChatGPT, probably you're using Gemini, those are the most common ones. However, we have complex apps like the Notion, the Calendly that help you to keep track of what is happening, how you're going to manage your day, how you're going to manage your tasks. But most importantly, we also have softwares that help us in writing, whether you're writing a concept paper, whether you're writing, even some of you, I'm certain up to now, you draft emails by the side and use them from ChatGPT and forward them to your particular supervisor or your director. Recently, there was a newspaper circulating. I believe it was a South African newspaper or it was a Tanzanian one, yes. It was a Tanzanian newspaper where the person writing the article had literally used ChatGPT to write the article, and the article was posted on the Gazette like that, and the Gazette was sold for national consumption. More than just being sold for national consumption, you know those interesting questions that ChatGPT asks you? Like, let me know if this one is okay, or you would like for us to add some more information and build up on this particular concept. The person did not edit those questions. You know those questions that you can use as prompt to get more information on what you want. The person did not edit those concepts. They just copy pasted the whole thing and put it on the newspaper and sold the newspaper like that. So someone said something that I think is very pivotal in guiding this conversation. They said that AI or any other particular digital tool that you will use falls to the level of the intelligence of the user. Just to let you know that these particular systems that we are embracing in the name of technology are not independent systems. Every system that your organization embraces, every system that your organization is using, as long as it is digitally driven, it is not independent. It is pegged to the intelligence of the user. So this is very important because it is calling out for me and for you to step up in terms of how we understand these digital tools and how we choose to incorporate them in our day-to-day activities, even in organizations as leaders. Some of us, I remember recently I went to a perfume store and I was like, I wanted to find a certain perfume that was rhyming with a certain lotion. And I ended up asking ChatGPT, just to be honest. And I was trying to bring about the different components that are found in that particular lotion, a few berries here and there. And I was trying to find out which of this perfume matches better with this kind of berry because I don't want to go smelling like that was out of the equation. But now look at that in terms of your organization. You want to make a decision. you want to put up some data information and you want to put it there and you're trying to think how how will this particular tool help me in my decision making. I believe most of us have chatbots right now. For example, in WhatsApp you can automate your responses, especially for those who use WhatsApp business, just to let your clients know this is what we have, this is what we offer, so the person can be actually interacting with the chatbot, thinking that they are talking to you. I also know of an email system that is automated. You send the first email, the chatbot responds to you. After the chatbot has responded and you choose your choice, or rather you pick your choice, you get another email from the chatbot and then it responds to you. So the owner of the email address only gets updated about the email that you have sent once the third email has come in. So it's very important for us to understand these systems. But more than just understanding these systems, it's important to know how trustworthy are these systems, how much can we rely on them, and how much are the decisions that they are helping us to make authentic. Recently, I was listening to an interview by a former CIA agent, and they said something that I thought is very interesting. They actually said if you want to say something incriminating, do not, in caps lock, bold, italicize if you want, and increase font. But they said do not share that particular information via a text or call communication. Why? It is now a thing that in the court of law, whatever you say as communication, either via phone or via text, can also be used as evidence. So if you want to say something sensitive, you'd rather meet with the person and talk to them one on one. Very interesting concept. And the thing was not just about the information being used against you. The thing is that they do not need a warrant to search out this information because it's already publicly available. You sent that text to a friend. They do not need a warrant to search out this information. And it looks like in the next generation, our crimes are not really going to be very interesting crimes out here of stealing and bugging one another. Most of our crimes are going to be cyber related. That is why we have a cyber security system set up. They're saying by 2030, because of technology, certain things such as SIM cards, even ATM cards will be phased out because of technology. And that's just but the start. Imagine how it will look like in 2050. If right now China has already managed to automate a robot that actually has emotions. I don't know how that works. I just can't wrap my head around it. An emotion that a robot that has emotions. Imagine how 2050 will look like. And these are things that are happening in the world that we are currently living in. So I believe it's important for each and every one of us to be up to date. Don't just think of technology in terms of where you are right now. Think of it from a global scale because it's already happening. One way or another, it will seep and find its way to you, whether you like it or not. This is the new generation or the new world that we are living in. So, with all that background information, we thought it really necessary now to bring this concept of technology into the workplace because organizations have already embraced technology. We are doing virtual meetings, like right now we are in a meeting, but all of us are in the comfort of their rooms. Someone might actually be traveling, someone might be somewhere else, but this is actually going on. And now you notice that some people actually don't join the meetings. What they usually do, they send their note taker AI to be part of the meeting, and then the AI will bring a breakdown of the meeting to them, and they will have an idea of what actually transpired during the meeting. And I am certain that there's technology that allows you now to to actually put a picture of you in form of a chat with. I believe all of you know the gentleman from Senegal. I'm trying to remember his name. It's just skipping my mind. Uh, yes, his name is Kabilem. Kabilem is the guy who, during COVID season, made went viral without making any noise. Like he would just get tasks, these complicated tasks that people were doing. For example, peeling a banana using a fork and a knife. And then he would just take the banana, peel it with a hand, and then do the sign of the hand like, you know, this is how it should be done. What are you telling me about fork and knife? Recently, he has sold himself. Now, people are also becoming property. So he signed a deal with an organization where the organization could actually create a digital version of him that would allow him to continue selling and representing brands worldwide without physically being there. So now he has a digital persona. So this is a technology that is already existing. That means very soon you and I can actually make a digital persona that will allow you and I to attend meetings without necessarily being there. I believe we have also watched movies, and you see how movies showcase a scenario where we are all having meetings virtually, but a form of your presence is present seated in the meeting. And unless you have certain kinds of glasses, you might not necessarily see the people seated there, but yeah, they're actually there, but in an electronic format. So it's important now that organizations have already embraced this kind of technology. How are we setting ourselves forward to be able to know that during these seasons, these particular technologies are not affecting our decision making, they're not affecting the trust that we have built, and they're not affecting the ethical standards of us as human beings. So, to carry on this conversation with me, I have two amazing individuals, and I would like to introduce them so that we can kick off the conversation. Thank you very much for making time to be with us. So, we have the gentleman called Abdunasar. He is a certified life coach, a founder, and a lead consultant of Apeiron. Please welcome with me Mr. Abdu Nasir. And then on the other side, we have another speaker, an amazing lady known as Nkwanzi Lydia. She's a HR, a business support manager of the Vivo Energy Uganda. These amazing individuals have proper experience that is going to guide us through this particular conversations. And maybe to start us off, I'll ask the simplest of questions, and the question will be, Mr. Nasir and Miss Lydia, please tell us, how have you adopted technology in your particular organizations? All of you are managerial positions, and I am certain that from wherever you are, in one way or another, you have incorporated technology. So, would like to know, how have you adopted technology in your organization? Mr. Abdunasir, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. Allow me firstly appreciate the Future Den team for inviting me. I'm very, very excited to be here. To the moderator, thank you so much again for the wonderful opportunity. And to each and every one of us who is here, thank you so much for being available today. So, my name is Nasa once again, and I'm glad to be part of this wonderful, wonderful conversation. Of course, knowing that most of the work I do primarily revolves around decision making, human behavior, and performance at both individual and organizational level. So, how have we integrated technology in what I do? There's various aspects to which technology has been integrated in what we do. Like I mentioned earlier, um, okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I'm a certified life coach. So in life coaching, we work with a lot of content. And with that content that we work with, there's a need for us, number one, to advance the content that we deliver, sort of streamline the trainings that we deliver to the different customers. And that itself calls for a need to integrate technology. So obviously, like you mentioned earlier, we work with tools like ChatGPT and quite a number of tools to help us in streamlining and designing the best frameworks. I think this. All right, can you hear me? Am I still clear?
Yes, please. You are very audible. Please continue.
All right. Okay, so this has been extremely helpful. Of course, relying on the fact that even as we are designing the sessions that we deliver to clients, it is pertinent that we have a bit of understanding of a bit of data backup. Which clients are we dealing with? What exactly suits this particular client? And how best can I not only rely on my human capabilities, but also integrate a bit of AI and a bit of technology to ensure that I serve my customers even beyond expectation. So for me, it has been mostly around content creation, content design, content delivery. You've been talking about platforms that are now hosting the content. So things are shifting a bit. There's a huge shift to the extent that even when we are conducting trainings, we are no longer conducting trainings in the normal usual setup whereby you meet people physically. No, we have learning management systems that are supporting on hosting the content that we have designed for our wonderful customers. And I think pertinently, it has also been helpful in a way that we now have automated coaching sessions. This has been extremely efficient, time saving, but also cost effective, especially when it comes to the customers. Now, not to say it all, but there are other aspects that I can look at where indeed integration of tools or AI has been extremely helpful. For instance, working with customers, it is pertinent that we track their progress. How do we track the progress? It is through these systems. There are dashboards that have been put in place to support the whole process of tracking our customer progress. This gives us insight. Okay, are we really progressing in terms of the objectives that we set when we met the customer? Do we need to make tweaks? So this has been extremely insightful. And I think the other aspect that I can talk about is management of the teams. We all have worked with organizations, and organizations have objectives. They have OKRs, they have KPIs. The easiest way, I think, me on my end, instead of physically or having to make phone calls and run around with the teams to deliver, the simplicity has come by integrating these tools, and it's been extremely helpful because I have designed a dashboard that can actually support me in understanding what the employees are working on at that particular time. What they are working on, does it really align with the set goals that we have in place? Is it helping us? So instead of wasting time and maybe making traditional phone calls and maybe having to have a lot of meetings, there's a lot of simplicity that has come by having some tools in place. So when you look at these tools, I'll speak about tools like BI. For those of you who work with BI, you know that if you're managing a sales team, BI will give you everything that you want. Why? Because all it takes is the teams to key in what exactly they are working on, at what level are they, if it's execution of activities or tasks. So the tracking is automated. I can wake up in the middle of the night and I open Power BI and I know this is the number of sales that we have in an organization. I don't have to call someone to actually work on the report. And on my end, I strongly believe that we are living in wonderful times, and it is, I think, pertinent, especially for the young people, entrepreneurs, people that are coming out of school, and people in the employment space to start adapting to these realities. Because, I mean, as I speak, um, you cannot deny the fact that artificial intelligence or even technology is here. So it is something that we just have to evolve to. It is something that we just have to master, engage ourselves in capacity building in terms of upskilling regarding AI, so that we stand a chance actually to succeed in such an environment. So thank you so much. I think I'll pass it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that comprehensive update on what you do with technology in your organization. That is really beautiful. I love the aspect that you have talked about learning management systems. Learning management systems are a new technology that is coming up also in the education sector. And I believe for people who have done online courses, you have been able to pace yourself using proper management systems in terms of education, where you're given the cost to do it yourself, and then now you're able to see how far you have gone. And that is really nice. But now that you have talked about all these things, I want to ask a very pivotal question in terms of decision making and trust. How do people trust you with their information as you update it online? Because that's something quite critical. How do you also ensure that you keep the information of the people secure in such a way that that information is not privy to hackers and cybersecurity issues? We have had issues in Kenya where someone hacked M-Pesa. I believe all of you know M-Pesa, and M-Pesa is now a global thing. So what actually happened is that the person hacked M-Pesa to make sure per transaction they get at least 1 shilling. 1 shilling per transaction, just 1 shilling, 1 Kenyan shilling per transaction. And the maximum limit, sorry, for M-Pesa is actually 500,000 Kenyan shillings. So you can imagine how many transactions go about in a day and how much money was lost before all that was discovered. So how do you ensure data protection? We have learning management systems where it's more of a self-paced learning system. How do you ensure that this data is private and there is no way that this client will have issues of probably their information being given out to these people who do promotional calls, their information being given out to people who try to, scam them and ask them for things that are not really viable? Please go ahead, Mr. Abdul. Sorry, I think your microphone is muted. You're speaking on a muted microphone. Thank you
Right,
very
all
much.
right. Okay, so can you hear me very well now?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So I think when it comes to information safety, that's a very, very wonderful conversation. And I think, yes, to a certain degree, knowing that there is evolution when it comes to technology, both on the good but also on the evil side, we might say there will always be a chance for anything to be hacked. But now the thing is, what measures can we actually put in place, perhaps to have a bit of mitigation of that particular problem? So, me in my organization, number one, not everyone in the organization is going to have access to information. So I use this as one of the most safeguarding tools, So I just make sure that the different teams are accessing information that aligns to their tasks and responsibilities. But of course, there is very tricky information like customer information. We work with customers who actually pay through. You've spoken of Mopesa. In Uganda, we have Momo. So some of the customers are using their information to make payments. But now, so what normally happens is the restriction of who has access. to the information. I believe that is very, very important, because if we are reckless with who has access to that information, we create a loophole, and at the end of it all, if that information lands in the hands of weird people, a lot of damage can be done, not just on the organization end, but also when it comes to damaging our customers. The second aspect is, right now we see a lot of cyber security trainings. And I would recommend that, for instance, the IT teams to upskill for any organization. You're working with, maybe you have IT teams, or you're working with data teams, business intelligence teams, teams that do data analysis. It is pertinent that at such a time as an organization, we invest money to make sure that our teams are well trained to safeguard against things like hacking, and this information landing into hands of, I'll call them weird people. So on my end, it's pertinent that we keep on upskilling the teams. We keep on paying for the courses that are required for them to improve. And at the end of it all, what we are looking at is making sure the information that we are having is not exposed, and it doesn't land into the hands of the wrong people. So from my end, it will be that, yeah. Number one, limiting access of information to specific team members, having policies in place that refrain people from sharing this information, and also continuous or consistent upskilling when it comes to the IT teams, and investing in courses like cybersecurity courses, which have become very, very available and accessible and even affordable in such a day and time. Thank you so much.
Amazing. I love that comprehensive feedback. And just to mention something in line with that, currently Google is offering an AI course and it is free of charge. It's called Google AI Essentials. So if you're in a position to actually embrace the course and do it online, please do. It's available at a very free price. This one is not even affordable, it's a free price. And it's important for you as an individual to upskill, like our speaker has mentioned tonight. And what you have answered has actually gone a very long way, and we could take so many turns from that particular conversation. But I would like to ask on this one. You have talked about employees having limited access when it comes to these particular platforms. Now that employees and the data has been protected, there is something I want to ask about technology itself. With the use of ChatGPT, with the use of Gemini, with the use of these tools, you notice that consistently as you feed in data, the algorithms pick certain patterns. And these patterns mostly usually influence the kind of feedback or the kind of information that you get. So my question from this is, do you think that digital tools or platforms can actually give us neutral decisions? Considering that we train these models, do you really think that they can give us neutral decisions when it comes to now a position where we have to determine something for a client or actually something for the organization? How neutral is technology and how much can we trust it?
Okay, sorry, I think I had a bit of lapse. Okay, so I think, going back to the question, um, can we have neutral decisions? I think that's a very, very, it's a very, very tricky question. Now, first of all, I think it's imperative for us to acknowledge the fact that, by us having this data, it supports pertinently, especially when we're making decisions, across maybe different aspects of the organizations. It could be performance decisions, it could be scalability, it could be whichever decision. And again, I want to acknowledge the fact that actually technology or even these systems or AI has been very, very pivotal in expediting those processes, quickening, scalability, predictability. You look at the rate at which things are done. You look at the data, the dashboards that are available. They have been pertinent in guiding us when it comes to decision making. Decisions like, are we keeping this person? Are we letting them go? Decisions like, now, what do we exactly need to do? Looking at the customer experience reports that we are getting from platforms or systems like CRM. What should the next step be when it comes to serving our customers? Yeah, so I firstly want to acknowledge the fact that AI has done, or even technology has done a tremendous job with that. But again, when you look at it from the different, maybe on the other side of the coin, we also have this reality. Number one, um, we are working with human beings or humans. The customers that we are serving are human. The people that we are working with are human. And when we begin to speak of humanity, there's always going to be nuances, there's always going to be context. So it is very possible for us to look at data and perhaps presume that we are making the right decision, but I'm also of a view that that data might not capture context. Things like humanity. You might look at the dashboard and you're seeing that someone is maybe performing poorly when it comes to numbers, but the numbers might not actually capture the human aspect of it, why this person is actually performing poorly. So if an organization is going to entirely depend on a data driven decision culture, it might also create some sort of toxicity. It's not something that I would really, really recommend. So I think where the technology, where AI might lack, it should be in the aspect of context. I've been in situations where I've sat in performance improvement, performance improvement meetings for different people, especially on my sales teams. And one of the things that are very interesting is that sometimes when you try to embark on human judgment by simply sitting down to listen, there are things that actually the human being can communicate that are not captured in the data that has been displayed on the dashboard. So my argument would be there has to be a balance. Yes, I know that we have transitioned from predominantly decisions were made, predominantly in the earlier days, decisions were made by, depending on human judgment. Yes, there were a lot of gaps pertaining that, but again, I do not think that we entirely have to do away with human judgment. So even as we are blessed at such a time to have decisions, to have data available, there has to be a balance between the data that is coming from the systems, but also integrated or incorporated with human judgment. So my argument can be, or is, yes, that neutrality, the only way perhaps to answer that question would be, what we need to do is to merge the data, but also with a bit of human judgment. And I think in that, the data and the systems that we have in place can serve us even better. Thank you so much.
I feel like you had a peep into my questions, yet I never shared them with you because you are literally answering my questions quite comprehensively. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The technology does not take away the human factor. And it's an important aspect if we learn to balance humanity with technology, because anyway, man is to error, and that is why we have systems automated to help us perfect that. But there are certain nuances that the system can never pick. That is why we still have to rely on human intelligence, because at the end of the day, intuition is greater than reason. Thank you very much for that, and I really appreciate that. So, probably also to add something into that I would love to ask you is, how do you think we can monitor the use of technological systems among our employees or staff to ensure that there is no over dependence or over reliance on these particular tools, and that now dulls the human aspect of this particular individual? I would love to know that, because now, like I said earlier, we know, I think they like saying Gen Zs use technology for everything, but I don't really think it's the Gen Zs alone. Everyone is literally using technology. But now you find someone wants to resign and they now go to ChatGPT, help me write a resignation letter. I know someone who told me they literally don't know a format of writing an official letter. At this age is serious, but at this age, and now technology will give you different formats. So, how do we monitor our employees to make sure that they are not over relying on technology? Just that perfect balance to make sure that the human nature is still there and the technological systems is still assisting.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, that's a brilliant, brilliant question. So I think the most important aspect when it comes to that question, how do we ensure that our employees are not over relying on technology? So I think me on my end, from my perspective, it is the fact that we are serving men. So it is on rare occasions where you're going to find that maybe an AI tool is serving an AI tool. We are serving men. So what does that actually mean? I always inform and tell my customer experience teams, yes, we are going to depend on CRM. But at the back of your mind, you must carry that understanding that we are serving men. So there has to be that empathetic aspect. Yes, we are looking at the data. Sometimes you may be running the data, and perhaps there are certain customers who should be flagged and they should be in red. So we find that balance, number one, in deeply understanding that we are serving men. Our customers are human. Yes, we have AI to perfect our service, but we are serving men. Secondly, the employees themselves are still men. And I think me, that's where I find the reconciliation. So, yes, we're going to be like whether it's managers who are managing teams, heads of departments. Yes, we have data. Yes, we have all this information on the dashboards that pertain to the performance of the employees, but it is imperative to always have that at the back of our mind that number one, we are serving men. Secondly, we are serving with men. So that should create a balance that if you're, let me say, going to assess the 90 days of your colleague, yes, I know it is very true that when we look at data, this person is performing badly. But again, now integrating that human intelligence, that intelligence whereby you ask questions. What exactly could have been the problem? Because I've seen situations where we relied on data, fired the people, and they went to other organizations and performed well. You get my point. And when you try to do a bit of deep diving or even outside conversations, you realize, I don't know, I was not just comfortable with the systems and maybe I wasn't trained very well. Data will never capture that. I was not very comfortable with such and such. Maybe there's a person who it will never capture that. So, how do we find a balance? Now, I'm speaking from my organization perspective. The balance is always going to be found in the reality that number one, our customers are men. And yes, decisions ought to be made Yes, data is extremely important, but again, we are serving men and we are serving with men. So you should find the reconciliation there. Yes, I'm dealing with this person, and I think for me, serving in leadership, that's where many people find the complexity because I get so many managers. They come to me with data and everything, and I disappoint them sometimes that, you know what, let's put the data aside. I just want to talk to this person. And in there, you start to find certain realities that have not been captured by the data. Like someone is saying, my supervisor has not provided facilitation for the previous 2 weeks, but I can't even speak. Hence, I'm performing poorly. So when you look at Power BI, it's saying, Chief, this guy deserves to be fired. So that's where we find the balance. We are serving men and we are serving with men. That is the reason as to why human intelligence, the human factor, will never be eliminated from the equation. Thank you so much. And back to you.
I think at this point, I am making peace with the fact that Africa is really the solution to the world. We are serving men and we are serving with men. When everyone else is looking towards technology, this will be a very important cutting edge in the near future. There was a prediction that was done, and it was saying that this is how the technological trend will fall into place. We bring technology, everyone is fascinated by it, how the systems make work easier, everyone embraces it, and then we get into the phase where everyone becomes a technological zombie. You are just addicted to the system, you're addicted to your phone, there's nothing you can do without asking the system. And then we go back to the place where now human beings start craving what was real. You now remember the human connections, you remember the fresh air, you remember that you can cycle, you can actually swim, and you want to go out there more and more again. So this is something that I will carry myself. I think this is a highlight for me, that we are serving men and we are serving with men. That is something that everyone should embrace, really. So, in the light of that, that we are serving men and we are serving with men, probably from your perspective, what do you think are some of those decisions that should actually never be automated or should not necessarily be relied on fully, especially when using technological systems? What can we still put aside to use it as human intelligence? What human intelligence says should remain superior to what technology has in place? Sorry, Sai, you unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me now? That's a great, great question. That's a brilliant one. So, what are some of those decisions that perhaps should be left to? Um, okay, can I get the question again?
Sorry, I asked what are some of those questions that I want to say literally be left out for human intelligence, those decisions that are superior in terms of
Mm,
what we are going to decide. Let this be decided by fellow humans, and then the rest we can leave to technology is fine. But these ones, they are critical
wow.
matters that in an organization we should
Mm,
not necessarily rely on technology. Let this be human.
okay, okay. That's a brilliant one, very intuitive, and it requires a lot of thinking. So, I think there's always going to be a combination of the two. Because again, in as much as, yes, human judgment is beautiful, it is wonderful, but again, we can't do away with technology. So I think, me, from my end or from my perspective, my recommendation would be, yes, I think it is a situation of case to case basis, number one. Secondly, the context of that particular decision. Is it a do or die decision? And I think the most important thing is even to do conduct a bit of analysis to know exactly how is the decision going to impact the organization. How is this decision? So let's say maybe from the data perspective, okay, this is the data we have, and perhaps we need to make this decision. But now to conduct a bit of analysis, how is it going to impact the organization? How is it going to impact the people? And I think from that context, now we can deal with it on case to case basis. There are decisions that have been made, perhaps without human judgment, and people have gone ahead to, commit suicide. There are decisions that have been made without, and people have done the worst stuff. People have gone through. So normally decisions come with a lot of emotional breakdown. And, so my recommendation would be, if there's a need to conduct an analysis, I would recommend that that assessment is done first. Let us try to see how exactly is this decision going to impact, number one, the organization, but also the employee. And perhaps if there's even an opportunity for us to prepare for the backlash, then better. How do we support the employees that are going to be affected by these decisions to go through those decisions accordingly? Yeah, so that's how I would approach it. I wouldn't really have a direct answer to that, but I would deal with it from the contextual perspective. Let's look at the context. I'll give you an example. I think it was 3 months ago. There's an organization, a friend of mine was working in an organization where there was a young lady who had been having miscarriages for quite some time. Unfortunately, she had informed the supervisor, who did not escalate this information up. And looking at me, I come from a background where we are result oriented. Like we want results. We are in business to get. So in such an environment, decisions are made very fast, and predominantly those decisions are made using data. But now the thing is here. So there was some sort of scuffle, as the HR person is saying, me, I did a bit of background research, and this person has been going through miscarriages. If someone goes through this kind of situation, this is how they are supposed to be handled or even supported. Now, the question is, did we support this particular person? And now, from this particular situation, if a decision is made to terminate this person, they can commit suicide, which again we don't want because of that emotional breakdown, that feeling of betrayal. How can these people just sit in their offices and make a decision without perhaps the full context? So my recommendation would be, for every decision that is to be made, let us not rely on data predominantly. Let us not rely on human intelligence predominantly, but perhaps conduct an assessment and come to a consensus or a middle grounds. Because again, the reverse is also true. There are some people that perhaps you might sympathize with, but again, numbers are not making sense. So case to case basis, but most importantly, to have that context, and then we can ideally make the decision. Thank you so much.
I love your perspective on that. It's more of a contextual basis than a blanket kind of solution. And that is very interesting. It still goes back to the core of we are serving with people and we are serving people. Today, I have learned something new that I didn't actually know. I had, not I had, but they told us that once you're fired from an organization, your letter is filed and it's a permanent document that actually says even if this person comes back, you are not allowed to employ them back to the organization, which got me wondering. That means that if someone is really against you, they can use that against you in a very negative way. So I love that it is contextual, and it's important that we do more of a background check. So going back to serving humans and serving with humans. Thank you very much for that. Please, if you have any questions, utilize the chat box as well. We are just about to wrap up our conversation. And at this moment, I'd like us to hear from Miss Lydia. She is here with us, the HR manager of Vivo Energy. Welcome, Miss Lydia. Probably you'll give us a brief introduction as you start off, but I will also start you off with a question. The first question was, what kind of technologies have you embraced in your organization? Considering now you are a HR person, what are some of the technological tools that you have embraced to help you with decision making? But more than just decision making, talk to us on the aspect of ethical practices when using technology in the workplace. You're welcome, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Faith, for having me on this call. I apologize, I had to join late. I had an emergency, a medical emergency, but I am here. Unfortunately, I've missed a bit of the conversation, but from where I found the conversation, it seemed it was quite interesting. So my name is Lydia Nkwanzi, and I work with Vivo Energy as the HR business support manager. And my role is really just about managing the day-to-day operations of the department, the strategic uh, impact, aligning business priorities, and also supporting employees regarding how to manage related HR processes. So regarding this conversation around AI, it's been a very heated conversation, and I think about a week ago, I was looking at a very brief clip by Sam Altman, I think, the person that invented ChatGPT, and he was talking about how they had realized that the AIs that are being built, when you try to delete the AI can actually copy the source code and put it somewhere that is safe so that when you delete it, it can regenerate itself. And that became the conversation now has shifted from AI is going to take the jobs away from people and is now moving to how do we practice ethics when it comes to AI? How do we manage the risk that we are facing when it comes to AI? And how can we empower people to not completely rely on these systems, but to also involve human judgment when it comes to using these AI tools? So, usually, we will often talk about the digital transformation as a technology shift, but I think that what we are looking at mostly is how to build a trust shift. We are moving away from trusting the person in the corner office to trusting a black box. And that is a massive ethical leap. So the question would not really be about whether we use algorithms to make decisions. It's whether we can explain those decisions to the people they impact. Because every single time that you are developing one of these AI tools, you have to embed certain behaviors into the source code for them to be able to operate in the way that you want them to operate. So, what you feed into the tool is exactly the output. So, if it is garbage in, you'll definitely get garbage out. The biggest challenge that I have seen when it comes to using these tools, honestly, we've become completely self reliant. You are not self-reliant, but we've completely become reliant on the different AI tools that have been that have been encoded in the different things that we use, whether it is Meta AI with WhatsApp, or it is Microsoft Copilot, or it is Google. When you go to Google, the first thing that comes up is that there is the AI mode. If you go into Facebook, there is also there is an AI based embedded in there. So as we shift into, I think we have already shifted, not that as we shift, but as we have shifted into this era of AI, we need to be able to look at how we move from the human in the loop to the human in the lead. And that means that every single time that you have someone in front of a computer, they have to be able to exercise judgment when they input whatever information it is that they are inputting into those tools. From our side, you'll find from the HR systems, you'll find that different AIs are being inbuilt into the HRIS, so that, for example, you'll have maybe a tool like, let's say, Jules, where anytime you want to you feed in maybe policies, so that every time someone wants to ask a question to HR, they just type in and they say, how do I apply for leave? And then the tool is going to tell them, this is how you apply for leave. So if it is about, I want to apply for this job, give me the website, then it generates the website. If it is about things to do with stress management, is there a course on stress management? And someone just types that in, and then they receive the information, and immediately that means that the role of HR gets reduced. But that is really looking at it from the being short-sighted in terms of how we get to embrace the era of technology. My thinking would be that as you have these tools to make work faster, to make work easier, you have to train people when it comes to things like data privacy. So people have to learn, and I don't know whether in your companies you have policies regarding AI, but for us as Vivo Energy, that was one of the areas that we were looking at when we were looking at our policies. And we had to come up with a policy on AI, how people are supposed to use ChatGPT, or how people are supposed to use Claude, or how people are supposed to, use Beautiful AI. When you go to a tool like Beautiful AI and you say, I want to develop a presentation regarding this, it actually pulls photos from the internet that have been taken regarding your company. And sometimes people do not understand um, how that is actually how we are giving information, because every time you input information into these tools, that information is used to better the answers that come out of that tool the next time. So if I feed in information of Vivo Energy, let's say I'm drafting a policy, and then I put that in there, the next time someone comes in and is looking at how do I develop a policy, what most of us don't know is that a lot of these things are saved in memory. Unless you turn it off and whatnot, you'll find that when it is helping to generate an answer for a different person who might even be in a different country, they could easily say, which companies do you know that use these sorts of policies? And it will bring up Vivo Energy, and it will actually be Vivo Energy Uganda. um I was also seeing something called deep search. I think it's called deep search, where if you input someone's name, the tool is able to generate for you a profile of this individual, even things that we think are meant to be hidden. So as we look to embrace this digital era, we must look at things to do with data privacy. We have to train employees on how to utilize these systems. If you look at something like Outlook, where you're using Microsoft Copilot, a lot of organizations now are able to filter what goes in there. But you see, we've become so reliant that even when you just want to type an email, the first thing you do is you do your draft, even with the spelling errors and everything, and then you go to Deep Search or Chat GPT or Microsoft Copilot and say refine this email, and it will do that for you. And you find that in space of what 15 20 seconds or even 2 seconds, you have a fully polished email. But if you do not go back to read what you have written, it can also generate information that you had not told it to. So that is why most of the times people look at these AI tools also hallucinating when it comes to answers. So we need to be able to get organizations to create things like trust audits, where you don't just ask, is this legal? And you ask yourself, if this decision was printed on the front page of a newspaper tomorrow, would I be embarrassed? So when it comes to the information that goes into these tools, we have to be very careful, and we need to teach people about how to use them. We have to tell them about the restrictions. We have to teach them about how to remove unique identifiers. We have to teach them how to generalize their queries. And then, based on the output from the tool or whichever tool they have used, they can now apply their sense of judgment to say, this is important. I can use this, or I shouldn't use this, or this is how I can better my presentation, so that we are not completely relying on AI. And then lastly, I think the other thing that I would say would be, when it comes to reducing bias and improving efficiency, the question would be on whether we are implementing AI in AI on our people or for our people. Ethical AI in HR is not about building perfect and biased algorithms. That is usually technically impossible, because data changes, needs of organizations change. So how do we build humble systems that know their limits, systems that welcome appeals, systems that ultimately answer to a human supervisor who carries the moral weight of the decision? Because when you look at all these AI tools, I don't know whether you saw a case where a couple in the US or something was suing ChatGPT because it encouraged their teenage son, who was going through depression, to actually commit suicide. So these systems do not have the moral compass. They will only tell you based on what has been fed into them, the algorithms that have been created, or the learning, the languages that have been embedded into those systems. So the human element is very critical, because that is where now the moral compass comes in. So if you cannot explain it, don't use it. If you cannot appeal it, that is in terms of information, do not trust it. And if you cannot audit it, do not buy that system. So there has to be continuous audits. Can I trust this system? If my employees go into this Jules tool and they put in information, is it good for us? Let's say for Vivo Energy, where we have where we are operating in over 28 countries, is it going to pull information that is meant to be for a policy in South Africa, or will it actually pull information that is meant for Uganda? So those are things that we have to continuously look at when we are using these tools, and when we are creating these tools, and when we are auditing these tools, so that we are building them to make the lives of our people easy, but we don't completely take the human element when it comes to judgment out of the equation. That is what I have to say. I apologize, it has been long, because I was away for most of it. Thank you. Over to you, Faith.
No, no, no. It hasn't been long. You have actually made good use of your time. Thank you very much. I am stuck with a few points that are really quite weighty, but I'll start with the last one. If you cannot appeal to it, don't trust it. I think in a generation where everything has become technological, trust is very easy. That you can even ask a simple question as, how do I lose weight? And it tells you how to go about it. So if you cannot appeal to it, don't trust it. And I like, are we using it on the humans or for the humans? Having the human in the loop, having the human in the lead, those are very pivotal questions. I feel like you have given us a crash course on how to use AI in the few moments that you have spoken. Thank you very much for that. So before we go on to the next questions, I'd like you to know that this conversation is also live on YouTube. We do have a YouTube page. It's called the Future Den Hub. You can find this conversation there after, even when this particular meeting is done in the next few minutes. So don't feel left out if you started off in the middle. You are free to watch the recording again and again and again until you understand why this is important. I like how you talked about the ethical bit of AI and how it is important that we should understand what it is doing for us and how we are going to go about it. And it is indeed true. I wonder if those people that actually develop these things have moral compasses in the end. Sometimes it feels like we are living the realities of movies. I mean, if you have watched Mission Impossible, this whole idea or concept of AI regenerating itself until you literally find the source code and kill the source code, you cannot really do away with the AI. So it's very important. I had a question that I wanted to ask you, Miss Lydia, if please you will allow. As a HR in your sector, right? Now that AI is part of the conversation, what are some of the things that probably you'd look at? I understand that you're in business support, but I'm certain you also have expertise in terms of people recruitment and that kind of area. What exactly would you be looking for when you are bringing someone on board to be part of Vivo Energy? Just give us what would be basic requirements for someone in this particular era to, let me say, get a job with an organization and it is related to AI?
Okay, so I would say that as Vivo Energy, first and foremost, the first thing that we would look at, even outside of AI, because now some of these for we are working in a multi-generational, we have a multi-generational workforce. Now you have your baby boomers, the millennials, you have the Gen X, and I don't know Y and Zs and whatever. And you find that the young kids on the block that have now started coming into the workplaces, they are already digital or tech savvy. So they understand all these tools. They have self-trained. They have done courses on Google, on LinkedIn, on I see these days there are people that offer courses on AI tools, and it will be like a package with about 28 AI tools, and you go through the course within a specified period of time. So they already know how to use that, all those tools and everything. So as we are recruiting, one of the things that I would look at would be whether this individual is able to live our values as an organization. If this person is trainable, if this person has a good attitude. There are certain things that you can teach an individual, and then there are those that if they don't have it, they don't have it. And there is nothing you can do about it. So if someone comes in for an interview and then maybe you're asking about flexibility, I like the fact that and I'm sorry, I'm calling them the young kids on the block because, well, they're still in their 20s and early 20s. They've just come out of campus, so they are now joining the working world. I like how honest and transparent these individuals are. When you ask them, are you willing to work in any location where we have operations, someone will tell you, no, I will not, because I want to stay in Kampala. Maybe I'm going to do my masters, or they give a reason here and there, or they'll just say plain no. But what that also tells us is that this is someone that is not able to adapt to the changing work environment. Because what happens if there is an opportunity, maybe in another country, and you have the skills and you have been proposed, and you say, you know what, I am not mobile. There is nothing wrong with that. But when you look at it from an organization perspective, we are looking at people who have agility, people who are flexible, people who can adapt to any environment, to people who can adapt when there is change, people who are ready to take on challenges. And that is, I think, one of the things that is missing, um, in the young generation that has just come into the workplace. So when it comes to, we wouldn't really look at the ability to use AI and what, but we know that is where most of the companies are moving towards. So we are just looking at someone with the basic computer skills, or um, the ability to navigate the internet, or to navigate different tools, and because we'd be able to train them on those tools. So they should be able to at least have the humility to learn, and the interest to learn, because there are so many systems that come up, and organizations are always changing. When there is, a new law here and there, then something has got to change in the system, or URA has come up and they're saying that this is how you need to do this and this and this, and then that impacts certain critical processes and systems within the organization. So we want people that are able to say, yes, I am willing to learn, and I am here, teach me. And when it is time to learn, I will learn, and I will implement, and I will do my best. So that is what we would be looking at as Vivo Energy regarding the kind of person that we want. But most importantly, we want someone that is able to live our values. We are a safety based organization, so safety is very, very critical. And that is on our health, safety, security, the environment, the quality assurance. Those are things that are very critical in our operations, because of how volatile the industry we are working in is. So someone has got to have an open mind to, and the ability also to spot when there is danger, and to be able to report when there is danger, so that we can continue to deliver our goal zero, which is that there should be no harm on animals, people, the environment. So that is what we'd be looking at. And then also, maybe I would say lastly, that would be on the ability to lead. And leadership is not that you have people that you're supervising. There is also self leadership. So the different levels of leadership. Are you, as an individual leader, are you able to command yourself, or to push yourself to do what you're supposed to do? Are you coming in on time? Are you completing your tasks on time? Are you adhering to the rules and regulations and policies and procedures of the organization? Do you have Are you able to be a team player? So that is just even from an individual level. And then we now move on to, if the opportunity comes, because we also need individuals that can be able to scale up when it comes to the work environment. You can be, in a position to be promoted, not to be in a role for 10, 15 years. For me, that is always a red flag. If you find someone that has spent a lot of time in one role, audit that person. And they should, if they cannot keep up with the organization, then sometimes you might also make the hard decisions to move such people around, or to exit them out of the company. So then we'll be looking at, how is this person able to lead others if given the opportunity? And then at the end of it all, do we have people that are able to lead organizations? So leadership is also a very, very critical element when it comes to our operations as Vivo Energy. And just to add to that, what we have even done as an organization is to look at our technical requirements for a leader and break them down. As an individual, what does it mean when it comes to this competence? As a leader of others, what does it mean when it comes to this competence? Then we also have the behavioral aspects or requirements, and this is the framework that we use to develop leaders straight from when you join the organization to when you have gone through the organization, and we equip you with the necessary skills to be able to lead self, others, and organizations. So that is what we'd be looking for as Vivo Energy for those interested.
I might have asked someone a job opportunity or interview soon anyway. On a light note, thank you very much. All I am hearing from this particular conversation is that it still falls back to the human aspect. Ladies and gentlemen, technology is here to stay, but what life, what is the quality of life that you are living as an individual? They always say that better awareness leads to better choices and consequently better results. So now you know it's important for you to get those technological skills, but still go back and develop yourself as an individual, self leadership abilities, understand how to be teachable. I've actually learned something new that no is not a proper answer because it means that you're not adaptable. So find creative ways of saying no, or rather, just find creative ways of saying no, but don't necessarily say no. Thank you very much for those particular insights. As we come to a close of this particular session, probably let me mention again, I have seen someone asking, yes, Google was offering free courses. We have come to the conclusion that the quality of results you get from AI is dependent on the quality of the individual using the AI. So, yes, if you want to learn things such as generative AI, prompt engineering, you can just search them out, Google AI Essentials, and you will find Google and it will have that. Soon, as FutureGen will also be introducing these short courses that are for your benefit, that you can have a place where you can go physically, do the course, understand it, learn from experts in the particular industry, and come along with the perfect certifications that will give you a cutting edge in this society. So, as you keep asking your questions, I have seen that Caroline has asked a very interesting question here, and I'd like to hand this both to Mr. Nassar and Miss Lydia. Is the use of AI for the lazy ones? Should we term them as lazy people who are not creative or innovative? Is the use of AI for lazy ones? Mr. Nassar, I would love to hear your perception on that.
Can you hear me? So I think now I'll speak from the CEO perspective. Uh, this is a wonderful question because it reminded me there's a book I was studying about making decisions when it comes to hiring people. And I think the key lesson I took from that book was always have the lazy ones on your team. Now, what do I mean? Lazy ones do not actually exhibit, lazy ones do not, they don't want to do a lot of hard work. Now what that does, it will create some sort of creativity with them. One of the advantages of having lazy people on my team is the fact that they always get things done very fast. So if you've been called lazy somewhere, I love having those ones on my team. So in as much as I have the hard workers, the challenge with the hard workers is that we tend to get results at a slow pace. The lazy ones are very creative. They will get very many things done in an automated mode. Actually, they are always fighting and figuring out ways on how to simplify processes, how to simplify work, how to get results in a. So that sort of creativity for me is a huge drive. And I think one of the things that helped me grow so fast in this world is that fact or that reality of being lazy. So I could sit the entire night just trying to crack something. And I'm like, okay, how do I add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 1 second and get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 results? You get my point. So it is not, yes, I know it's a notion that people are trying to paint out there, but I also want you to understand that what you're calling laziness is creativity. It's a gift. Actually, me on my teams, yes, I know my hard workers, they work hard and I love them. The challenge is that things get done, but not as fast and effectively as I would have. So normally there's a balance on my team. I have quite a number of lazy ones, which I love passionately, by the way, because of their creativity and how they are able to contribute towards the general objective. So I answered it not from a professional standpoint, but from the CEO perspective. Me, when I'm looking at someone, I look at their ability to adapt AI. So I'll give you an example. I worked with a 14-year-old recently. And do you know what he did for me? He told me that I find it a bit hard to edit videos. I find it a bit hard to do this, boss. So you're telling me about all these things. I see loopholes in your LinkedIn. So he told me that just give me a couple of days and I'll be able to get the tools. He came and he had a bot that will post for me consistently. His job is to feed it with the information. It will automate. And the posts on my LinkedIn, sometimes people see me somewhere, hey, how did you manage to automate it for almost a year? He's the one who came up with that idea, video editing. There's a bot that he integrated in CapCut that expedites the whole process. So the videos we could have maybe taken something like maybe a week getting a normal video editor who is hardworking. Those videos are coming out in just minutes. So again, I want to appreciate whoever is creative, and if there's an opening, you have a job on my team. Thank you so much. Over to you.
That is not what I would have expected in a million years, to be honest. Miss Lydia, please, can you hear probably a professional perspective from your end?
Yes, thank you very much, Abdi, for that. You have a 14-year-old that is already using these tools. Very interesting, and I believe that is why these kids are so advanced and they struggle with with a certain generation of workers within the workplace, because they are the use of these tools is looked at as laziness, while it really is not. So I would say that number one, laziness is refusing to do what is required. That is how I would look at it. So a lot of the times when I have had this, I think it comes from the confusion that when we are talking when people are talking about AI, they confuse effort with output and struggle with value. We have people who are just, they love the struggle. If they are doing paperwork and what, that is when they feel that they are really working. So they believe that if a task is hard, then um, the hardware is morally superior. But AI is not a tool for the lazy, that I can tell you. It is a tool for those who are overwhelmed, those who are ambitious, and those who are strategic. And I like that Abdi talked about what he has done with this young uh, gentleman of 14. He has freed up so much time that he would have wasted sitting in front of his computer and putting up a post and then editing the video and then, what language should I put, what catchphrases should I put, all of that is done for him within a year. So he has time. He still has visibility on the social media platforms, but he now has time to go and do other things. So there are about three assumptions that I would look at. So one is that ease equals laziness. I believe that is not true. We can't accuse a carpenter of laziness for using a nail gun instead of a hammer. You cannot accuse a pilot of cheating for using autopilot. And neither can you accuse a surgeon for taking shortcuts for using robotic assistance. Recently, I underwent surgery, an emergency surgery. And before, a few years ago, I would have had a cut, a very big cut, and they extract whatever it is they needed to extract. But guess what? Now there are surgeries that are called laparoscopic surgeries, where they will have very small cuts put on your body, and they put a camera and they remove whatever it is that they want to remove. And guess what? Even a few hours after, you can walk. So just because people are using these things, it does not mean that they are lazy. It is about efficiency. And the truth is that we need to, once you have better tools, it helps us to achieve better outcomes with less wasted effort. So it is not laziness. Then the other assumption I would say is speed equals shallowness. There is a persistent myth that fast work is low quality work and that slow work is actually superior. But if you look at it, a designer who generates a draft interface in seconds using AI can spend hours refining it, user testing it, and perfecting it. The slow designer who builds everything from scratch often runs out of time before the whole process is complete. So who produced the better outcome? Is it the person that used AI or the one that decided to sit and do everything from scratch? Then the other thing is a concept called cognitive offloading, which is also equated to intellectual decline. The belief that if you don't perform every step of the process manually, you are weakening your brain. That is very, very, very untrue. We offload um, we offloaded mental arithmetic to calculators decades ago. We've been using calculators for the longest time. If I want to calculate, I don't know, 9 times 100 and something, just punch it in the calculator and it gives you the answer very quickly. So, but did mathematics die? It did not. Mathematicians now stopped wasting time on computations and started solving problems that were previously unsolvable. So AI is the same thing. It does not replace thinking. It just replaces the time wasted doing tasks. So something we should put in mind is that when we are using AI, it requires precise thinking. Like I said before, garbage in, garbage out. A lazy person cannot efficiently use AI to get valuable output. You have to articulate the problem clearly. You have to be able to provide context. You have to double check what the output is. You have to identify errors and hallucinations. I can give you an example. I was working on a certain part of the policy, and what ChatGPT generated for me, it was a general policy, and what it generated for me, I looked at it and I was like, this is not in the Employment Act. But guess what? It was quoting the Employment Act of 2006 and saying it is in section this and this and this. And I went back and I said, that is actually not true. Double check. This is the section that you are referencing, and this is the section that you should be referencing. So, and that is where now the precise thinking comes in. And then you have to be able to refine and to redirect if you see it is going off course. Someone was joking that AI these days is like a girl that you don't want or a partner that you don't want. Usually when you put in a query, it will, and then it gives you an answer. It will even give you options of, now do you want me to do this? Now do you want me to do, then you answer and you say, okay, proceed, or I don't want this, proceed this way. And then it will come back and say, okay, now that we have finished this, can I build this for you? And that is how that is how some of these tools are behaving. So you have to be precise in your thinking and precise in what you want to see achieved in terms of output. And then it also requires expertise in terms of utilization of the tool. For starters, it does not know your industry. It doesn't know your industry, it doesn't know your company, it doesn't have information about your employees or your customers or your regulatory environment. It will give you plausible text but not accurate text. So a lazy person who just copies, a lazy person for me would be now someone who just goes, types in, and then whatever it is that they have picked is what they now share. Um, if you have been in the news, you could see that there was a suit that was taken out against Deloitte because they did an audit, and that audit was actually generated by one of the AI tools, I think ChatGPT. And unfortunately, in the results that were published, there were errors. And those errors actually made the company that they were auditing for face fines. And hence now they had to sue Deloitte for giving them inaccurate information. So you have to also be able to know how to use the tool. And then we go back to ethical judgment. AI can embed bias because it is going to, I'll give you an example. If you are creating a tool, let's say in HR, and you're giving it historical data, and that historical data is pointing to majority of the roles that you have recruited, you've always recruited males. Guess what it is going to do? When you ask it to shortlist for you, it will probably shortlist only males because it is based on learned behavior or whatever it is that you put into it. So you have to be able to edit, and that is why the human is very, very, very critical when it comes to AI. It can breach privacy, it can remove accountability. So a lazy person is one now who wouldn't be able to audit what the tool is giving, and they don't question when it comes to maybe procurement of a system, they'll not question the vendor contracts or they'll not demand accountability. The lazy person will just accept, this is what they've given me, this is what they have given me. So it requires vigilance. You need to be skeptical and you need to be brave and courageous when you are looking at, when you're using these tools. So the lazy person can be caught and sued or exposed. So it is the diligence that will lead. So I would say that to summarize what I'm saying is that AI is not for the lazy. So you need to be very, very smart when you are using these tools. Thank you.
I like it. Thank you very much for the particular submission. It has been a perfect balance. We have the perfect combination for this particular topic. Make sure you employ the lazy ones because they're not lazy, they're just creative in their own way. But also have the hard worker that will cross check, counter check, and do the due diligence that is needed to make sure that the work submitted is not falling into a bias or is not relative to what is actually needed. So it's important that we have that perfect balance. And please, Caroline, I hope now you are satisfied with the answer that AI is not for the lazy. The lazy are creative. If there's actually such a word as lazy, I don't think at this particular point it applies. We only have the creatives and those that do the due diligence to make sure that the information provided comes in agreement with what is actually needed. I love that. I have really enjoyed this conversation. I like what Robert is saying that people have to understand that the world is for those whose minds have been built and are robust enough, people who have personal development built in the inside of them, so that they can be the leaders and have the AI serving them as their assistant. Also, character is important. Integrity, Faithfulness, diligence, empathy, loves, all these things must be in us while we use AI to brush things up. So it's very important to understand that we are using AI for the humans, not on the humans. And as we use AI, remember that we are serving people and we are serving with people. Therefore, technology is not meant to do away with human intelligence or eradicate the place of a human being. Have a leader, someone that you can look to. And if you cannot appeal to it, then you're not allowed to trust it. So, in 1 minute, I would like our beautiful speakers to just give us a parting shot. Thank you very much for making it to this particular forum. We have enjoyed the conversation. Personally, I have enjoyed the conversation, and I have a lot of nuggets that I am taking out of this conversation. So, in 1 minute, Miss Lydia, please tell us your parting shot on how decision making, ethics, and trust can be wrapped around our organizations, even as we embrace technology. And then after that, we can hear from Mr. Nasser. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Faith. My parting shots, we began this conversation, even if I was not around, but I know we were talking about algorithms, data, and digital systems. But I would like to end with human. I think for me, my biggest challenge when it comes to AI and what keeps me awake at night would be that it is not that AI will become too powerful, it is already powerful. But the challenge is that a lot of us are becoming comfortable. We have stopped questioning, we have stopped challenging, we have stopped looking under the hood. And the greatest ethical risk in digital organizations is usually not malice, but it is abdication. It is assuming that someone else checked the system. So please note that when it comes to auditing AI, it is our responsibility. It is your responsibility. Every AI decision in your organization eventually lands on someone's desk. Someone gets hired, someone gets passed over, someone gets terminated, someone gets watched. So the question we must carry with us is usually not that is this AI accurate or will it become more powerful? It is this AI fair? And if we cannot answer that question with confidence, then we have absolutely no business pressing deploy. Do not deploy a tool that you cannot question, that the people, when you're procuring a system, the people that are selling it to you must be able to answer in plain language, what is this going to do for the people? So technology, yes, scales speed, but only leadership scales trust. So be worthy of that trust. As a user and as someone that is interested in these tools, that is something that you should always carry with you. Don't just use a system. Be wary of data privacy regulations. That is a thing, and that can land you in trouble in different organizations. Make sure that you double check the work that the output of the work that you have put in. Do not let your mind become lazy because you just want to do copy and paste. And in fact, ChatGPT was now leaving a watermark in its output, so that when you post your things and people are coming up with ways on first put it into a notepad and then this and then this, it will have the watermark that has chat gpt, so people will know that you have used AI. Yes, it is very good for us, but please don't let your minds become lazy. Be able to challenge the status quo, be able to challenge the information, double check, put in the work. Don't just do a copy and paste. That is what I would say as my parting shots. Thank you so much for having me for this call. And I hope we have learned something. And I wish all of you who are on the call the best. And thank you to my fellow panelist, Nasa, and to you, Faith, who is moderating this call. And also thanks to Steven that reached out regarding these talks. I'll be available for more, just in case you have further questions. Thank you.
Please, Mr. Nasser. Thank you very much, Madam Lydia. That was a comprehensive parting shot. Mr. Nasser, we are available for your submission.
Thank you so much. So, again, just grateful for Lydia's submission. There's been a lot of learning from her deliberation. So, I think me from my end, whether you are a user, whether you are a creator, whether you are an owner, technology will help us to expand or even enhance what we can do as an organization. But the key thing to note is that ethics will help us to protect people. So again, going back to character, and especially when we are working with these systems, then most importantly, judgment will help us to preserve trust. These are three pertinent aspects that we need to embed every time we are working with AI. So again, like I said, looking at these three, a reminder that we are serving men and we are serving with men. So I think that will be my parting shot. And thank you so much once again for the invitation. Kudos to the gentleman who invited me. Thank you so much. A wonderful moderator. Tremendous job you did, and the team which has been available throughout this entire session. Thank you. And yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that wonderful submission. I have totally enjoyed moderating this particular session. And more than just moderating, I have learned a lot of things. I loved the concept of cognitive offloading again, and I'll still not forget they're not lazy people, they're just creative men and women out there. So if you think that you're lazy, please tap into your creative faculty. Probably you might give us the next best solution. But remember, technology must be handled with character, it must be handled with ethics, but most importantly, carry judgment in everything you upload and in everything that you offload from that system. Have proper judgment, because at the end of the day, the AI falls to the level of the intelligence of the user. Thank you very much for joining this particular conversation. This has been the Future Then organization, bringing you a conversation on decision making, ethics, and trust in digital organizations. We usually have this kind of talks bi weekly, that is twice in a month. So we're looking forward to hosting the next conversation on the 25th of February. More details will be provided. If you have not joined the WhatsApp group, please do so, because that is where most of the information is passed. But also, we do have our social media platforms on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. Do well to like, share, subscribe, and make sure that next time you invite someone else. Also, this conversation is available on YouTube. You can rewatch it immediately after, but we'll also provide the conversation so that you can be able to share it with friends and family. Thank you very much for joining. Do have a lovely night.
Thank you, Faith. Good night, everyone.
You're welcome. Good night. You are free to leave the call. Thank you very much.